This is African American History is American History. In 1949, the world-famous bass baritone singer-actor Paul Robeson was scheduled to give a concert on August 27th of that year in Lakeland Acres, just north of Peekskill, New York. It was interrupted by a series of violent attacks by mobs of white citizens who directed their anger against the blacks and Jews attending the concert. More than 150 people were injured in what would be known as the Peekskill Riots. The concert was organized as a benefit for the Civil Rights Congress, an organization formed in Detroit, Michigan in 1946 by William Patterson, a civil rights attorney and a leader in the Communist Party USA. The group's goals included abolishing the House Committee on Un-American Activities and protecting Southern workers' rights to unionize. By 1949, Paul Robeson was as well known for his strong pro-trade union stance, civil rights activism, communist affiliations, and anti-colonialism as he was for his singing ability. And with the Civil Rights Congress as the organizers, it wasn't a great stretch of the imagination to come to the conclusion that many of the whites in 1949 Peekskill, New York, would view the concert as nothing more than anti-racist, pro-communist propaganda. The funny thing is, Paul Robeson had given 3 earlier concerts in Peekskill, all without incident. But in the years leading up to the riots, Robeson had become increasingly vocal against the Ku Klux Klan and other forces of white supremacy, both domestically and internationally. Robeson specifically made a transformation from someone who was primarily a singer into a political persona, who vocally supported what were, at the time, considered, quote, communist causes, including the decolonization of Africa, anti-Jim Crow legislation, and peace with the Soviet Union. Robeson also appeared before the House Committee on Un-American Activities to oppose a bill that would require communists to register as foreign agents. 2 months before the concert in Peekskill in 1949, he appeared at the Soviet-sponsored World Peace Conference in Paris. Robeson referred to the growing tensions between the Americans and the Soviets, in which he stated,
"We in America do not forget that it was the backs of white workers from Europe and on the backs of millions of blacks that the wealth of America was built, and we are resolved to share it equally. We reject any hysterical raving that urges us to make war on anyone. Our will to fight for peace is strong. We will support peace and friendship among all nations, with Soviet Russia and the People's Republics."
However, that's not what came over the wires sent to news agencies in the United States via the Associated Press. This is what was sent.
"We colonial peoples have contributed to the building of the United States and are determined to share its wealth. We denounce the policy of the United States government, which is similar to Hitler and Goebbels. It is unthinkable that American Negroes would go to war on behalf of those who have oppressed us for generations against the Soviet Union, which in one generation has lifted our people to full human dignity.
Years later, an examination of time records showed that the Associated Press dispatched this fabricated version on its wires just as Paul Robeson began speaking. The comment was never investigated by anyone from the American press for its authenticity. And because America was in the early stages of the Cold War, where anti-communist sentiments as well as Jim Crowism ran hot, there was a nationwide condemnation of Robeson. That false statement was seen by many as very anti-American.
This is African American History is American History.
In the weeks before, the local newspaper, the Peekskill Evening Star, condemned the concert and encouraged people to make their position on communism felt. Yet they were very careful not to directly advocate violence. Even before Robeson arrived, a mob of locals attacked concertgoers with baseball bats and rocks. The local police simply stood by and watched. They claimed that the picnic grounds had been outside their jurisdiction. A New York State police spokesman said they never received a request for state troopers. Now, let's make no mistake. The Peekskill Riots were explicitly racist and anti-Semitic. The rioters shouted racist terms for African Americans and Jews, turned over cars, burned crosses, and even lynched effigies of Paul Robeson in Peekskill and other areas of the United States. Robeson's longtime friend and Peekskill resident, Helen Rosen, who was to pick Robeson up at the train station, had heard on the radio that protesters were massing at the concert grounds. Robeson drove with Rosen and two others to the concert site and witnessed the violence for themselves. Robeson made more than one attempt to get out of the car and confront the mob, but was restrained by his friends. The next day, the commander of Peekskill Post 274 of the American Legion stated, quote, "Our objective was to prevent the Paul Robeson concert, and I think our objective was reached," end quote.
This is African American History is American History.
In the weeks following the riots, New York State officials, members of Congress, and many national news organizations blamed Paul Robeson and, quote, "the communist concert organizers," end quote, for provoking the violence. One after another of Robeson's concert bookings were canceled, fearful that violent protests might take place in their communities. In 1950, the U.S. State Department revoked Robeson's passport in order to suppress his views on race and communism from being expressed abroad. His passport would be reinstated 8 years later. In September of 1999, on the 50th anniversary of the Peekskill Riots, Westchester County held a remembrance and reconciliation ceremony at which county officials made a formal apology to Paul Robeson and the victims of the attacks. Paul Robeson Jr. and Pete Seeger, then 80 years old, participated in the ceremony.
This has been African American History is American History. The episode you've been listening to,
The Peekskill Riots,
was written and directed by Harlan Kearsley.
The voice actor for this episode was Robert McKay as Paul Robeson. I'm Harlan Kearsley, and on behalf of everyone here at African American History is American History, thank you for listening. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe. Once you do, you'll be notified as soon as new episodes are posted. Thanks again, and please stay safe. African American History is American History. Copyright H.C. Kearsley, 2024.